Today's Spotlight is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, Busey Bank. Busey, your dream, our promise. Welcome to Spotlight. I'm your host, Jane Wernette, and today I'm joined by three local nonprofits: Metropolitan Family Services, the Conservation Foundation, and the YWCA. You're watching Spotlight, and joining me now from Metropolitan Family Services is Melanie MacBride, their managing attorney. Welcome to the show, Melanie.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, really looking forward to hearing about this because I want you to start off with, you're with the Legal Aid Society, and I would love for you to explain to us how that works with Metropolitan Family Services.
Sure. So Metropolitan Family Services is a huge social service organization. We have tons of offices all over Chicago and the suburbs. We have 2 offices in DuPage, and we provide a variety of social services. Legal Aid Society is the legal arm of Metropolitan Family Services. So we are a legal aid agency embedded in Metropolitan, and we provide a variety of legal services.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. So you're servicing the whole agency.
We are, and we provide different services a little bit based on different geography, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later.
Okay.
But the services that we provide include housing law services, representing tenants who are being evicted. We represent victims of domestic violence and family law cases. We represent immigration matters. We're sort of a whole-scale legal aid that is housed in Metropolitan Family Services.
Okay, well, let's take a little bit of a focus, if you would, on talking about those that have suffered domestic violence and the services that you're providing to those folks that are working with the agency, specifically here in DuPage County.
Sure. So I'm going to talk about both Cook and DuPage, because part of what we're doing is expanding our services to DuPage County.
Okay.
In Cook County, we represent victims of domestic violence in civil orders of protection. We have a project where we represent them in conjunction with criminal cases. We represent them in divorce cases. We also represent them in immigration matters, in YWCA and VAWA immigration petitions. And we do that immigration work in DuPage as well, and we have for some time. We have not yet, though, been able to, until now, foreshadowing, provide services in order of protection in domestic relations cases, which is obviously a much needed service for survivors of domestic violence.
Okay, so talk a little bit more about that, because you've got a new program that you're rolling out as that relates to both the residents of Family Shelter Service. And so talk a little bit, if you would, Melanie, about the services that you're providing and kind of where you're going with that program.
Yes. So Metropolitan Family Services, as I said, is a huge social service organization. And it grew even bigger in 2019 when it merged with Family Shelter Services, which has been an organization that's been in DuPage for many years, providing a variety of services to survivors of domestic violence. One of those services that Family Shelter Service provides to survivors of domestic violence is an emergency shelter where survivors of domestic violence can reside temporarily when separating from their abuser. Our new program puts an attorney and a paralegal full-time in that shelter to work with survivors who are living in the shelter.
Wow, so you're really embedding yourself right there in the, the ground zero, if you will.
What that's going to allow us to do, we think, is some interesting things that most legal aid organizations don't get to do. So I'll just talk a little bit about some of the services we do. We're going to be doing direct representation in order of protection cases and domestic relations cases, which most legal aid organizations that represent survivors of domestic violence do. But we also are going to be able to do some unique things because we're in the shelter. So for example, we're going to be able to do some emergency legal safety planning with survivors when they arrive at the shelter. Survivors often have very complex needs at separation. They may be coming from a different state. They may want to go to a different state. They may need to weigh whether or not seeking an order of protection is even the right thing for them to do, given the other things that are going on in their lives. We're going to be able to incorporate legal issues into the safety planning that the family shelter workers are already doing.
Yeah, that's an incredible amount of expertise that you're bringing to the table. And I would imagine there's not only a benefit there, obviously, to the clients, but there's got to be a real big benefit to the social workers themselves that are working with those clients to know that they've got that right there with them.
Yeah, and I think it's twofold. One of the other things that we're going to build in, which I think is going to be really interesting, is doing training for the shelter staff on some of these legal issues. Because I think and not overly complex trainings, but the more that they understand sort of the process that their clients are going through, the better able they are to do their case management and do their counseling. And in the same vein, I think that the attorney and the paralegal who are working with these clients are going to benefit from being housed with the counselor who can say to the attorney, you know what, I think the client's really not understanding what you're saying because of X, Y, and Z. If you change your how you communicate with her a little bit, I think you'll be more effective. And so I think it's going to be a great benefit to the client and to the attorney and to the counselors, to everybody, really.
So it's really, I mean, by kind of going with that model, you're really sort of breaking down those barriers to being able to deliver services to those clients that really need it, right?
Yeah, and do it really with a team approach and sort of say, we're here to address all of the needs you have in this very urgent emergency circumstance. We're gonna help do all sorts of things for you, and we can do it all in one space. Obviously, COVID has made this a little more challenging. We're hoping that we're all going to be in one space a little bit sooner. We wrote this grant before COVID, but we're going to be doing this, I think, remotely for a little while. But ideally, it's a 3-year program. We will all be in the same space and walking into each other's offices down the halls very soon.
Yeah, well, we hope that for everybody, right? This has been certainly a very challenging year, and I'm sure, particularly within Family Shelter Service, this has probably been a very, very tough year, right?
Yes, it has been a very challenging year, and providing services is very challenging. And, it's unfortunate because I think that part of what's so wonderful about the shelter is that the camaraderie and the group. And I think, you can do that on Zoom, but it's tough. So I'm hoping that we'll all be together face to face soon enough.
Yeah, well, we wish that for you. And Melanie, I want to thank you for stopping by and sharing that information and giving us an idea of how that's going to be working. And please continue the good work that you're doing at Metropolitan Family Services.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been great. If you're interested in learning more about Metropolitan Family Services and their Legal Aid Center, please visit their website. We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned. We're coming right back with more Spotlight.
For more than 150 years, you've believed in Busey. Today, more than ever, we believe in you. To our healthcare workers, first responders, and local businesses, you're central to the communities we're proud to call home. Busey's grateful to partner with you and your families through life's ups and downs, today and for generations to come. Because as neighbors helping neighbors, we're in this together. Busey, grateful to serve the communities we call home.
Stay informed with NCTV 17 News Update. These free videos, sent straight to your email, summarize the latest information and show you what's happening around town. Visit nctv17.com/subscribe to sign up now.
If you're just tuning in, you're watching Spotlight. I'm your host, Jane Wernette, and joining me now is Jim Kleinwachter. He's from the Conservation Foundation. So good to have you with us, Jim.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited because I think we're going to do a little bit of some debunking of some myths here, because I think the Conservation Foundation does a whole lot more than maybe some folks know. So we're going to start right out with a question. Is it true that you offer advice and information about sustainable landscape and water issues for homeowners in their yards?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what people do in their yards, and I think intrinsically people understand that what they've been doing, like pouring chemicals and mowing and chopping down all of their flowers and so on, is not the best thing for the environment, but they don't know where they would go next. So we provide that service, not only information, but all the way down to helping them on their particular property.
Yeah, I think it's true. And I think obviously sustainability is kind of the name of the game these days. And I think you're right. A lot of us as homeowners, there's a lot of confusion out there about, what we should be doing. So my next question would be around native plants. I mean, did they really, you hear that they attract the birds, they attract the butterflies, and obviously, particularly in the case of the butterflies, we're very concerned about that, right? Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's another misconception, and I tell people, if you're concerned or you wanted to know if the plant is native or not to where we live, is to Google it. So a lot of the plants that we would see, like hosta, daylilies, lilacs, roses, all those plants are not from Illinois. And these homeowners that live in Naperville, for example, have invested their money to live in Illinois right now. And we're trying to encourage people, why not develop and encourage the plants from Illinois while you're living in Illinois?
Interesting.
So the plants have, a lot of benefit. They're sustainable, they're long-lived, they feed the wildlife here, and they're beautiful if I can get that information out to people.
Okay. Well, and I'm just going to ask you, I mean, you named a lot of things, and as I think about my own garden, I'm thinking, wow, I think I've got nearly every single plant that you just mentioned is in my garden. Give us a couple of examples of native plants that you see here in Naperville a lot.
The native ones, the most common one would be coneflowers, black-eyed Susans. After that, there's a lot of other ones like garden phlox and blazing star, penstemon, ones that people might not know very well.
Okay.
So there's a short list of really popular ones.
Yeah, I'm actually, now I'm starting to feel a little bit better because I'm pretty sure I got cornflowers in my garden. So that at least I'm good. And they are pretty. And I think that's a kind of a little bit of a misnomer, right, for people, is that oftentimes I think they think about prairie or native plants and they don't necessarily think of them as being pretty, Jim. What would you say to that?
Well, I think back in the day when our ancestors came here from Europe or wherever they came from, they brought plants from the homeland here because that's what they knew. And so I think that's changed a lot. We're a far stretch from coming over in a boat and emigrating to the United States, but people have still surrounded themselves with these other plants from other places. So I think once they see the pictures, and that's what I do, I teach at College of DuPage, and I do these lectures all over the area showing them how pretty these native things can be. And did you know that this plant is functional and this one is just decorative? That there's a difference in plants, that the light bulb comes on for people.
Sure. Now, I think this is what's interesting, right? You, at the Conservation Foundation, you actually go to people's homes to give them recommendations. Is that right?
When we started this program, I realized at an early point, I could give you information, I could give you a brochure, I could tell you you're doing the wrong thing, but the difference between you actually making that step would be help. And there's nothing better than I come to your yard, walk around with you and look at your particular water issue or whatever problems that you have on the yard and give you advice, and we do it for free.
Yeah, that's an amazing service. And I know, I've spoken with Brooke in the past, because you also do a lot of work at the Conservation Foundation on, water and water reclamation and how that all works right in your garden with the rain barrels and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of that can be combined pretty easily. And it's not difficult. So that's what we keep telling people, is that getting started, like anything else, if you want to get into something, you start small and you work your way up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's an amazing service. Now, Jim, would people just reach out to you for that kind of an appointment?
Yeah, that's what we encourage people. Our website, theconservationfoundation.org, and you can have them call my office directly. It's 630-428-4500, extension 115, and I'll post my email in the notes of the show.
Okay, that's wonderful. We'll make sure that people get that, because I have a feeling that your phone is going to be ringing a lot. You obviously, the Conservation Foundation is at McDonald Farm. So talk a little bit about that and kind of where it's located, if it's open, and what can people expect at the farm?
Sure. Well, we're going to be the last farm in Naperville, and it's 60 acres, permanently protected with a conservation easement, so it will always be there. And we're on the base of Washington, off of Ring Road and on Knock Knolls. So if you've been to Knock Knolls Park, you've driven by the farm, and it's on the west side of Knock Knolls Road. We're typically open normal business hours, Monday through Friday, like 8 to 4. But I encourage people to contact me, because if you came out, you wouldn't get the full tour.
Okay, so we could just come on out, and rather than come out, make an appointment and come have a tour, and then and I'm assuming at the farm you kind of show people a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, we typically, over the course of a year, we get 3,000 to 4,000 visitors. Even last year, because it was outside and you could do the social distancing on a big 60-acre farm, we were able to have tours and people come out in small groups and get to see the farm. So all these things we're talking about, and the farm dates back to the 1870s, so there's a lot of history there, but we've also upgraded with this, what they call green infrastructure. We have rainwater harvesting, the old cisterns, and we have wind turbines and solar panels and a green roof, and wetland areas and rain barrels and all of these fun things at one site.
That's awesome. So that would be a really nice day trip for people, as people, start to think about what they're going to do as the weather starts to warm up a little bit. McDonald Farm would be a good place for us to go visit.
Absolutely. And you can see the native plants I'm talking about, see them, touch them, and smell them.
Awesome. Listen, Jim, thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate knowing what you're doing out at the Conservation Foundation and McDonald Farm, and I'm sure that our viewers will be picking up that phone and giving you a call so that they too can have a nice, sustainable garden right here in Naperville. So thanks for coming by.
You can even come and get a beautiful sign for your yard when people are trying it. So come join the group.
Love it. To find out more about the Conservation Foundation, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break for a few short messages. We'll be right back.
For more than 150 years, you've believed in Busey. Today, more than ever, we believe in you. To our healthcare workers, first responders, and local businesses, you're central to the communities we're proud to call home. Busey's grateful to partner with you and your families through life's ups and downs, today and for generations to come. Because as neighbors helping neighbors, we're in this together. Busey, grateful to serve the communities we call home.
Welcome back to Spotlight, and joining me now from the YWCA is their Director of Child and Family Development, Peggy McGuire. Peggy, good to have you with us. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Jane.
Well, always a pleasure. So I'm going to just start right out. Give us a little bit about Project HELP, and then what you've been seeing in the community during this incredible time.
Sure, thank you. And thank you guys for everything you do at NCTV. We all appreciate the information you guys give us in the community. So Project HELP is a child abuse prevention organization, and we serve families with children prenatal through 17 with home visitation and parent education workshops. So since COVID hit, we've been able to successfully do everything virtually. Since March, both our workshops and our home visits, we're able to still execute those same services that are needed more than ever right now. Because most of us have been parented and some of us are parents, I get the question all the time, what is the biggest thing facing parents? And pre-COVID, I would always say isolation. Isolation is really an underminer of quality parenting. And can you imagine what that is looking like for parents now? So we're seeing major upticks in child abuse, domestic violence, substance abuse, food insecurity, poverty, etc. So we have completely amped up our game in the parent support lane right now during COVID, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when you say that, because I think oftentimes we don't think about isolation, but you can absolutely think about it pre-COVID. But as you point out, oh my gosh, one of the number one issues, right? But you talked a little bit about moving virtually, which taking some of your programs that way. So talk a little bit more, Peggy, about how you've been able to successfully pivot into that virtual space and what kind of successes you've seen there.
So one of the positive things that has come out of the virtual space is that we're able to access those families that might not have been able to, we might have had access to them prior. Maybe they didn't have a car to get to a group meeting. Maybe they were in a domestic violence situation where they weren't going to welcome a home visitor into the home. So we have this safe space of people being in their kitchen or their bedroom and talking to the social worker for those individuals that are particularly vulnerable and maybe have been isolated and unable to get to some of our events. So all of the families that work in our program, they want the help. But I feel like in the virtual mode, we're able to access those individuals that want the help, but had a lot of barriers prior. And now those barriers are down because we can do things virtually. So that's been a real plus, reaching those especially vulnerable families that might not have been able to access our service. And we all have a cell phone, so we're all on call 24 hours a day. So when you eliminate the driving piece, when we're talking about, we serve all of DuPage and Aurora, we serve the south side of Chicago, and there's a team of 5 of us that do all of that work. So it's been really awesome, because think about yourself as a parent. Are you going to go to a workshop when it's 6:30 at night? You had homework, you get dinner, you just came home from work, but you might when you're working from home and you can log in and get a lot of information. So there's some things that have been really awesome, and we've been able to catapult information to families during this critical time and honestly access them to services that are just continually depleting, like shelters and food banks and things of that nature.
Yeah, it really has been a social service agency tsunami that, quite frankly, we know will continue well into 2021 and beyond. Let me ask you this, Peggy. 2021, we're in a new year. What's kind of on the docket for Project Help as you look to this year ahead? What are the plans?
So I appreciate you asking that question, because Project Help is not funded by any state or federal contracts. We rely solely on donors, philanthropy, grants, and we're blessed. But I think moving forward, we are going to keep our virtual in line until probably July, unless our funders require something different, which we're willing to do, of course. But really, I think moving forward, we're just going to have to really tap into different funding capabilities so that we can maintain. There really truly is no home visiting child abuse prevention program birth through 17. There's many birth through 3 or birth through 5, birth through 17 that exist. And we are in constant conversation with DCFS because we partner with them heavily. So I think moving forward, I think the virtual land has taught us about accessing people that we might not have been able to access, the need for connection, and the need for the community to realize this is so vital. There's 2 police social workers in Naperville, 2. So we're on their speed dial. Like, we are that support to the community that they just can't give before it's crisis. It's that support that before the police are called, they will reach out and reach Project Help.
Yeah, and I think you make such an important distinction. I mean, we all know, those of us who have parented teens, it doesn't become easier when your kids go to school, at age 5 or 6. The challenge is little people, little problems, big people, big problems. It continues to get very stressful and very challenging times. So, Peggy, I want to thank you and your team at Project Help and the YWCA for all the good work that you're doing. We hope that 2021, we hope that you'll be able to get back to delivering some of those in-person services, continue to amplify the good work you're doing virtually. And really, I think it's on all of us to figure out how do we fund these critical prevention resources to make sure that we don't find families in crises. An ounce of prevention, and we need to really make that a priority. So thank you so much for coming by. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jane. Thank your team. And go to projecthelpdupage.org if you're interested in learning more about volunteering or donating or just about our services.
Yeah, we encourage that. So if you do want to know more information about the YWCA and Project Help, go visit their website. We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned. We're coming right back with more Spotlight. I'd like to thank all of my guests for joining us on Spotlight, and our friends at Busey Bank for their generous sponsorship of today's show. If you would like to learn more about the organizations featured on today's episode, please visit our website at nctv17.com. And to stay informed about what's happening in our community, sign up to receive our daily news update and like and follow us on Facebook. For Spotlight, I'm Jane Wernette. Thank you for watching.
Today's Spotlight is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, Busey Bank. Busey, your dream, our promise.